right, here we are, back once again. Welcome, everybody. It's Techno Saturdays. It's Electro Saturdays, actually. I keep doing these electro-focused broadcasts, and I don't know, I like it all. Techno, electro, it's all part of it. That's the world I live in most of the time. So, nice to see some regulars back here in the chat. Enigmatic Onion, Pavel K2, Simple Sam, Omega Men, that's a new name. How's it going? William Mindreaders is back. And, of course, almost every time, John H. Kingston III is first out of the gate in the chat. So welcome back, everybody. 343 Labs, 343 TV, 4 times a week, broadcasting, streaming, sharing what we do. 343 Labs is a music production school. We do online courses. We do in-person courses in New York, in Berlin, at Riverside. We do private lessons. We've got a Discord community that's free to join. Speaking of, we've had a sample challenge running. We've got a sample. It's a recording from our fearless leader, Max Wild, who is a pretty darn good saxophone player. He did a little bit of a jam, recorded that, and we're still accepting submissions, I believe, for the sample challenge. You want to find out more about that? Hop onto our Discord, join up there. The link is in the description below. And if you're interested in learning more about the courses that we offer at 343 Labs, also we have our info down here in the description. As usual, we've got a giveaway this week. It is a 3-month Splice subscription. Splice provides sample packs. You can download individual samples. Basically, you get the subscription, you get a certain amount of credits per month, and you can just go on. They've got a good interface. It's easy to grab stuff and try it out in your projects. It's also a good place to find new plugins. And on top of all that, they provide for free. You don't have to pay for this. It does like a DAW sort of backup sync and sharing and collaboration platform. And, I use this actually with students and with people that I work with. And it kind of automatically, syncs and scans all of the samples, and it knows which plugins you're using, and it makes it easy for people to go back and forth and collaborate on a project. And it acts like kind of a time machine. You can go back and have versions of your project. So anyway, I like it. It's great. And of course, if you want to get into the sample thing with Splice, which is their main thing, enter our contest this week. The link is here in the chat. So anyway, enough about that. Let's get right into it. We're not just hanging out and listening to music and having a conversation today. We are basically sitting in with Carl Finlow in the studio, looking at how he's using Bitwig, talking about what he's working on. And I'm really excited for this. So I hope you guys are as well. Let's go ahead and welcome our guest today. What's up, Carl?
Hey, John, how you doing?
I feel kind of hyper, actually.
I can't see myself. I'm just looking at Bitwig, so I hope I look okay. I have no visual.
You look fantastic. You're bright and shiny.
That's good. That's good.
It's always, I have this little, go ahead.
Today it's going to be more of a deep dive into just the way I use plugins and audio, things like that. No real plan as to how this is going to go. Just going to wing it, really. Start with some really basic things and talk about some of the different aspects of Bitwig, some of the machines, and some of the plugins that I use day in and day out, really. So nice. That's how we're going to work it, really.
Perfect. And yeah, it's interesting. We had this set up, a little while ago, the date already planned, not knowing that Bitwig was going to have a pretty major update coming out this week.
Serendipitous.
Yeah.
I've waited to use that word for a long time. It's the timing is perfect, really. It was a big surprise that came out this week, so we can have a look at some of the things that the update has offered.
I thought that looked pretty cool, especially like the MIDI processing that they added seems to be a big feature of the update.
We'll be diving into that and seeing what we can get done with it. It's all brand new to me as well, so we'll don't expect anything too crazy coming from me because I'm still finding my way around it.
That's all right.
And disclaimer, John has made me really, really zoom in my 4K screen so it looks good on your screen. So when I open a plugin here now, it's like literally actual size. So if I open a single plugin, I can see nothing else but this plugin on the screen. So bear with me because it's a bit weird navigating around because I can't get to menus and things as I normally would. So
I'm sure everybody understands.
Anyway.
And in fact, that's actually really cool because people will really get a good look at what your plugins are doing. And
Sure.
let's get started. Let's check out what you're working on. And
Okay.
yeah.
Well, like I said, this isn't a project that I'm working on. This is literally sort of meat and potatoes, bare bones, open sort of new instance of Bitwig. All I've done is recorded in a few things from the 808. I've got a kick and a snare and some hi-hats, which sounds like that. Okay, so nothing too crazy there. So what I thought I'd do is walk through some of the machines in Bitwig, and especially the sampler. Now, obviously, back in the day, I worked in a really big studio with all the classic machines that you could ever want, really. Those are long gone. But what I found myself doing was trying to get into the raw recordings from those machines. And I think I mentioned this last time. There's a Bandcamp site where this guy's he's taken a Teenage Engineering OP1 and he's recorded raw tones, not multi-samples, just single key, but like 30 different tones from each machine. So there's all sorts. If you look, I've got this folder open here, so I've got my OP1 classic synths, and inside there's things from ARP. There's loads of different Korgs. There's Prophecy, loads of different Moogs, Oberheims. So if we look at the Korg, Mini Korg 700, for example.
I think your preview doesn't come through, by the way, just so you know. So.
Oh, really? Oh, that's odd.
No, it's because of the listen to plugin is on the master. So.
Ah, okay, yeah. Weird.
No worries. Okay, we'll hear it when you bring it in.
So yeah, we've got a folder here with, just for example, we've got this Korg Mini 700 here. So what I've got open here is just an empty version, an empty sampler, like Ableton Live. You can use it as like the basic version, the simpler. Can you hear that now?
Yes.
Okay. So we've just got one simple raw waveform there. There's many. There's like 30 in each folder from each synth. Now, what I like about it is these aren't from. Well, these are from the actual machines. They're just really raw. There's no effects on them.
I was going to ask. These are basically like just the oscillators, right? There's no modulation added to it. I mean, there's no effects.
A few, yeah. You can hear on a few. There's some like filter LFOs, filter wobbles, and pulse width modulation and stuff. But other than that, they're just raw, dry out the machines themselves.
That's great. That sounds like really excellent, raw material for making new sounds.
It's a great place to start. It's such a wide canvas because I think there's like 30, maybe 30 plus different machines. There's some Yamahas, CS5, Wasp Deluxe, all the sequential stuff, loads of Roland stuff. And the whole collection is like $30 or something.
That sounds good. You know what? I want to get that really link for anybody who's interested. So what's it called again? I'm going to look this up while you go.
On Bandcamp, if you type in OP-1 synth, I guess that might get you there.
All right. Let's see what we can find. And I will put that link in here somewhere.
Yeah.
Although sometimes the YouTube chat doesn't like external links. It might block it. We'll see.
Okay. Well, like I said, for me, it's a good starting point because all of these machines, as we know, have their own character. There's a tonal character to each of them. This Mini 700 doesn't sound anything like the RPAX, for example. So I like to use these as starting points. Often I won't go too far beyond it because the tones themselves are just very beautiful in themselves.
Sure.
I've got one here, for example. Where was it? It's from this Korg Mini 700 thing again. Now this isn't multi-sampled. It's literally just one sample.
Sure.
but because they're such nice pure tones,
Right.
you can get a lot of mileage out of them from the highs to the lows.
What I have to say about these kind of samples that you're using and the synths that they're taken from is, for electro, sometimes overcomplicated, over-processed, over-designed sounds aren't, for me, as interesting as I like for electro sometimes more pure waveforms. It has like a certain clarity and sharpness that works really well for electro.
That's exactly the way I feel about it. That's one of the reasons I use this so much. I was doing this with Ableton Live and the simpler in there.
Sure.
But once I moved over to Bitwig, I've started getting into... it's really nice how you can use multi-samples. Let me clear this one here now. So what I'm going to show you, let's just pick one at random. We've got the memory Moog up here. I'll open this folder. What I'm going to do, I'm going to select all the samples from there and I'm going to drag them across into here. Now,
is it just mapping them to single notes? Aha.
That one has, yeah.
All right.
I'm going to have to redo that. Just let me redo this. If I click on create new multi-sample, there's a thing, there's two little things up at the top here you have to do. You have to click on this one here. What you do then, if you drop them in here, it's going to put each sample as a full keyboard span.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's a command where you can choose whether it divides up the samples into individual zones or across all zones or like all notes.
That would have been
okay.
That would have been on these things over here. You could drop it in and do it as a kind of traditional multi-sample where you'd specify the key ranges. You can get into the velocity zones, all that type of thing. But this one is interesting because now we've got every sample playing right across the keyboard. So we've got, there's 29 samples there, all of them fully mapped right across the keyboard. But if I press a key on my controller, I'm only playing that first one there. Let me just turn the volume down. But what's special about this mode is we have this select knob over here. So if I start turning this select knob now, it gives the keyboard access to there.
Sure.
So, but what becomes really interesting is, let me turn off this now, is something I prepared earlier. This one here. Well, in fact, I'll go back to there because that's open. So here we are on this one. Now, the thing in Bitwig is you have these modulators. You click on this little thing here, and it opens these boxes here. You can have as many of these as you want. So we'll click on this first button, and that gives us access to what I call modulators in Bitwig.
Okay.
So we're going to start with this one. I'm going to start with the LFO. So I'm going to double click the LFO. Now it's assigned the LFO into this first block here. If I click it, we get access to the internals of the LFO, the speed. We can slew it one side or another.
Slewing is just, it's like tilting to change the shape one way or the other, yeah?
Exactly,
right.
Yeah. Now you can see this little flashing blue thing here. So if I click that, this is basically waiting for me to assign this to anything that's highlighted blue here in the sampler. But what I've found is really interesting is if you assign it to this select thing here. So I'm going to give it a full range there and then unclick it. So now you can see the select knob is moving in time with the LFO. So if I start playing the keyboard now, obviously before it was just playing one sound, but if I just tap multiple notes on the keys, every time I press it, it's playing different sample based on what this LFO is doing here.
All right.
So if I speed up the LFO.
So it's just switching between, it's modulating between different layers, different samples that are they're all playing simultaneously, but the LFO is just choosing which ones we hear at any moment.
Which one is actually going to play, yeah.
Now, I'm curious, are all the devices, are the instruments in Bitwig, do they not already have modulators in them and you have to add them?
Oh no, they have all of that built in. This is just an extra layer.
Okay,
on
I
top.
see. Yeah, and
the
I mean, I know
the
that about
samplers-
Bitwig. I just want to clarify that for everybody, that you don't always have
Yeah.
to do it modularly like this. But Bitwig has incredible modulation options where you can just put anything, plug anything into anything, basically, almost.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's.
I have another question for you. This is a really
Yeah,
important
sure.
question. Bruno
Let's
wants
go.
to know, what tea are you sipping?
I've got 2 cups. One is tea, and it's I think it's Yorkshire tea, and
Right.
the other cup is a cup of coffee. So I'm kind
Oh
of
my.
mixing my drinks. Yeah, I'm living on the edge.
Have you ever tried combining tea and coffee? I know that sounds weird.
I did once. Yeah.
You once,
It's as bad. It's as bad as you think it's going to be.
right?
Perhaps a bit worse.
There used to be a Chinese bakery in my old neighborhood on the Lower East Side that sold a yin yang, which was basically half tea, half coffee with lots of sugar and cream. And it was good, I have to say. It was a little
Okay.
strange, but anyway,
Yeah.
just as an aside.
So there we go. We've got an LFO modulating between those really sort of raw waveforms. So let's just create a little sequence with that. So we've got our 808 is running there. We open up the editor here. I'll go onto my pencil. I'm going to hold down Alt. There we go. So it's just drawn a load of notes. Let's play that now. So
That's
straight
already
away-
good just with the LFO as it is. It's kind of accidentally awesome.
It's really simple. I didn't know it was going to sound like that.
Right.
This is what I love about this kind of found sound thing, especially with big sample libraries like this.
Sure.
So, okay, let's just drop this down a note or two.
I've got a couple more questions here.
Sure.
Our friend Goran Alavux. Am I saying that right? You got to correct me if I've got it wrong. I don't want to embarrass anybody. He wants to know if you know that Bitwig natively supports sysx messages, like external, I guess, controlling. I don't know if it means
no
controlling hardware or receiving from hardware.
I have no idea.
All right, we'll look into that. We might have to look into that. I'm curious about that too.
Okay.
And then we have one more about the LFO here. Omega Man
Sure.
asks, can you trigger that LFO so it starts always from the same point, or is it always random?
Yep. You see the button here, free. So we've got note, resets to 0 on new notes, sync resets to relative 0 on play,
Okay.
randomize on new notes. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, and that's pretty typical for, I mean, most modern synths and modulators. You can trigger it. You can, it's the phase retriggering basically, and you can choose whether it starts with a MIDI note or whether it starts on a clock, like a syncing an LFO to the beat. It also looks like here, I haven't noticed this. I guess maybe it's called a different thing on different synths, but you can also have the LFO start when the clock starts, right? So like based on the transport, right?
That's what this is, yeah. Sync resets to relative 0 on play.
That's great.
So it'll start from absolute 0 on play. Now,
So you could have an LFO set to like a hertz rate, but it will.
That's what this is.
Right, and you can set it to always start at one phase position when the clock is at 0.
Yeah, well, let's do that now. So if I play that now, watch the LFO here. When I press start, watch where the white dot goes. You see it jump to the beginning?
Yeah.
So it always jumps
It's
to the
slightly
beginning,
out
and
of
then
sync. The visual and the audio, there's like a little bit of a delay, but I think we can tell.
I think there is an issue with Bitwig like that, to be honest. I've noticed some of the user interface aspects are quite behind time.
Interesting.
I hope that's something that they're working on. It's not a big issue to me, but I've definitely noticed it. So let's look at this again. Now, obviously, that's just playing quite sort of long chunks of the samples, so we can reduce this down a bit. It sounds a bit full, that. So what I'm going to do, this is a global ADSR here for the sampler, so I'm going to reduce the sustain and perhaps some of the decay here. So we're going to make these notes a bit shorter. That already sounds 100% better.
Tight.
Yeah, tight. So that's the LFO working on hertz. Now we've got all these different options here. We could put it on, say, on half notes. And that's perfectly in time now. It's doing its thing exactly over half a bar. Let's speed it up. That's... What have I put that to there? It seems to be going slower now. So you can hear it's got more time to skip through different tones. You're hearing more different tones coming out as it's going along there. Let's try it some more. That's even slower, so you're hearing each note is getting a chance to trigger maybe 2 or 3 times there.
And we're just so everybody's clear, you're just playing one MIDI note. There's no melody happening.
That's one MIDI note,
right.
No melody at all coming in it. That's just straight 16th notes.
This is something like in when I do synth and sound design classes to have people, because it's hard with synthesizers sometimes to tell when you're listening to music or sound whether it's a melodic thing, like did someone write a melody that's doing those changes, or is it the sound changing? Is it? And it's so possible with synthesis and, you know, to make sounds that sound like there's harmony or melody in the sound. And it's all just modulation and tonal change. And that's a really important thing to learn to listen for.
Now, what we're going to look at now is that was one sampler. So we could go on and on with that. We could add more LFOs onto whatever you wanted. Just a quick example, just on the pitch to see what that sounds like. I'm going to tack on an LFO, click the blue thing there, and I'm going to turn it onto the pitch there. Okay. Now this is I won't do it all the way because that'll be quite drastic. So
it's going to get a little wobbly, isn't it?
It is. Now you can see the 2 LFOs are on different rates there. So now when I play this, it'll be changing the parts as before, but the pitch will be doing its own thing. Okay.
It just got
That's
more
just dry.
A little more freaky now.
Yeah. So little delay. A little bit of reverb.
Are you modulating? You're just doing that yourself?
I'm just doing that by hand.
Okay, but you could put an LFO on that.
Yeah, I could indeed. Let's show you how that's done. So we go down to that was this thing here, the convolution.
Don't mind me, I'm dancing.
This is a free. This is a free plugin which uses. I've forgotten the name of them now. What do you call them? Impulse responses.
Right. It's Convolution Reverb.
It's a fantastic, Convolution Reverb. It's a fantastic plugin. It's totally free. It's got a built-in EQ, so you can like drop out frequencies on. I like to drop out the low frequencies, especially on the if I'm putting reverb on kicks and things like that.
Yeah.
But you've got modulation. You can stretch the sample, the reverbs. You can do all that type of good stuff. So what I'm going to show you is how to modulate putting that on there. Now, there's different ways of doing it. I'm just going to do a really rough version. So what I'm going to do is that part that we had going there, which is this thing here. I'm just going to put some reverb there like that. But what I'm going to do in the actual plugin, I'm going to just modulate the mix there, you see, so it'll go from dry.
Nice.
So because I've been turning that now, that's just appeared on the top of the list there. So
nice.
All I do is click on a modulator, click on a plus, attach an LFO, click the blue thing, turn it to mix. Now open up the LFO so we get the timing right. Put to quarter note.
Nice.
So we've got a rhythmic thing going there. That's starting it with the transport. Now it's triggering another note there.
Whatever just happened was a nice variation.
Exactly. One of the LFOs has gone slightly off because they weren't sort of playing the same timing.
So let's say you wanted to fix that. Like one of them is synced to the transport and the other one isn't?
I think the pitch, let's go to the pitch one that we looked at before. That's just on hertz, you see. The other one is flat timing, but this one isn't. So if we attach the pitch...
Speaking of what's happening right now, our good friend Jason Sostek, who is here in the chat of Serotonin Records, says next level is to have it slightly off for groove. And that's just what happened, right? Like the LFOs just got a little off and it made a new interesting groove. That's cool.
It did. I don't know how we get these. Let me put that onto sync. That's not the right one, is it? Is it quarter note? Those aren't the right tempo with each other, but it's still not bad. And that's more consistent. It seems to be doing a kind of similar thing each time.
All right. So I mean, truth be told, like if you were to just leave it being slightly random and never make it perfect every time, it's still awesome. You could make a whole track and have those LFOs going slightly in and out all the time. Exactly. And however it ends up is probably going to be fine. Exactly.
So that's that. So that's one basic waveform. That's a sampler with a load of individual raw waveforms in, and we're modulating between those. I'm going to turn that one off now. I'm going to look at another version. Bitwig has these things called a container. Now, what I've done here, inside the container, I've set up two samplers like we've just been looking at, but one of them is filled with these Roland SH5s, and another one is filled with the memory Moogs. So I can play the SH5 there if I click on that one. And I can... So again, these are just the pure tones from the SH5. If I click on this one, we've got the pure tones from... Otherwise, I need to click on that. So those are all from a memory Moog. Now, because we've got two in one container, we can start doing some really interesting things with two samplers. So I'm going to play this part here. Again, this is just 16th notes. So you can hear that's playing the memory Moog there. Let me bring down the release and the decay again. There we go.
Sounds a little like a 303 right now.
It does, yeah. So if I flick onto the other one, that's just playing the same thing, but on the SH5. Now, because it's in one container, we can start doing things like this. I've attached the LFO on here. Let me play this now and show you what this does. Now, the LFO is deciding which of these is going to play. Before, when I just clicked on it manually, when it's lit up yellow, I'm playing the Moog. When it's lit up yellow there, I'm playing the SH5. So I've put an LFO on that selection. All
right. You're switching between...
It's switching between two different machines there now.
I see.
Okay. Now, you can add a second LFO. This second LFO, I've attached to the select button on the SH5. So the Moog one is staying the same, it's just playing the one tone, but the SH5 is now doing this modulation on which of the raw waveforms it's playing.
So it's kind of like it's a step up in complexity from the first example. You're using the LFO to switch between different samples.
Between two machines.
But also between two machines, right?
Yep. Now we can add a third one. If we look at that, the third one is doing the selection on the memory Moog. So both machines are oscillating, modulating which samples they're each playing, but the container is oscillating between which of the two machines are actually playing. And you can go on and on and on. It's insane what you can do with it. I don't even know what I did with this number 4. Look, LFO 4 on the memory Moog. I've attached it to the decay. So
sometimes you're hearing longer notes.
Exactly. You can see it there, literally.
There's so much amazing variation in this groove now, and yet again, melodically, we're just playing one simple MIDI pattern of 16th notes on one note. What would happen now if you took this MIDI clip and changed the notes?
Okay, which is what I've got here.
Oh, you already. We're thinking the same.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm there. So let's play an actual part.
So that you're basically taking that and now it's doing your like a chord progression or a bass line.
It's doing a bass line, yeah. It's doing a little part that I played in. So let's look back at the machines. So you can see it's modulating that on the Moog there. We can do, I think I've got a fifth one. Let's do the fifth one there, but activate that. What is that linked to? I can't even see what that's linked to. Let's attach it to the decay and the Roland. Okay, so let's turn that one off. It sounds like it's gone off course a little bit. So now there's other. Okay, so that's a kind of groove you can get going.
Nice.
With multi-samples or basic waveforms. Let's look at another one, which is, this is a longer waveform.
Mm-hmm.
Let's open up the sustain so we can hear what this is.
All right, so a bit more of a complex sample to start with. It's got some changes to it. There's some effects.
Let's turn that one off there. And so this one here is, again, it's just 16th notes. So I'm going to play that. So nothing amazing going on there really, but obviously we can start adding the play position in the sample.
Right. This is something I really love to do. In Ableton as well, like using simpler, you can do this.
Yeah, with the wave tables and things like that. Exactly.
That's really
fun.
So
we're gonna attach an LFO again. You can see this one is going onto the play position this time. So when we play that now, so let's drop down the sustain. So open up the LFO. So again, it's quite a nice slow one. We could go much faster.
Once it gets really, really fast, it's hard to hear, I think.
It is, yeah, because it overtakes the sort of 16-stepness of it, you know.
Got another question here from Omega Men. Can you set the probability to the length? I think this might have been something you were demonstrating just previously.
Probability to the length, of course.
Now, to be specific, we're not exactly doing probability here. We're doing, these fixed frequencies on the LFOs you're not modulating the rate of the LFOs. So, and it's not random. So it's not really probability. What's making it sound like it's sort of random or having an element of probability is because the LFOs are not necessarily in time with the beat. So you're hearing different tones, different modulations happening out of sync, as it were, with the clock, and that's what makes it sound sort of random or probabilistic. Is that I say that right?
But watch this though. So again, my favorite, the LFO. What could we attach that to this time? I think. How about the LFO?
Oh right. So, all right. I know you probably know this, but I'm going to quiz the chat. What do you call? There's a term for modulating a modulator, which is what Carl's doing. Let's see if anybody knows that in the chat. It's got a specific term. It's a pretty nerdy thing to know about. Also, let's see. I think a friend of yours is here. Carl Bedford is another Carl. Do you know?
Oh, hey, Carl.
He commented that it's interesting to see you using Bitwig now after all these years, as apparently you taught him to use Ableton. And I think Daz Williams said the same, that you got him and Carl into Ableton. And you mentioned this last time, like sort of what got you into Bitwig and not using Ableton so much anymore.
Yeah, it was a mixture of all sorts of things. I've been on it since version 3, so however many years that is, it's a long time. 15 years, is it? Something like that, maybe more. So I think I was due for a change. Ableton has been unbelievably good for me. I have no complaints as to how it's helped me through my musical voyage. But you know, it's good to shake things up and put a different challenge in front of you. So I'm happy moving into Bitwig now.
Yeah, you're getting a lot out of it, and you're sharing that with us, which is great. Let me just pause for a moment to
Sure.
remind everybody about the giveaway. This is your last chance to enter the giveaway for the Splice subscription. If you have not already, we're going to be announcing the winner very shortly here in the chat, and I'll also call that name out on the stream. And let's see where else we are. All right, so we've got some answers to my quiz. Someone's mentions cross mod, which is not exactly, that's where you've got oscillators modulating each other. That's not exactly the same thing. Good guess. Someone says LFO squared, which is kind of funny because it's not exactly the right math, but yeah, it's a good answer.
Good title.
Modulception. Farning says modulception. Nope, but that's funny. So actually what that is second order modulation. So if you're getting into like nerding out on synthesis, if you take an LFO and use it to modulate the rate of another LFO, that would be second order modulation.
Which is exactly what we're looking at there now. So this LFO that I've just assigned is now modulating the LFO rate of LFO number 1. So you can see it's speeding up, it's slowing down sometimes based on what this curve is doing here.
Yeah, and you can see it visually. You're seeing that sample start kind of slow now, and then speed up and then slow down and then speed up.
We're just on a sine wave here, but with these you can start to bend, you know, how the LFO is shaping.
Sure. Is that slew again?
Which is going to affect the timing of how it's going from one side to the other. So
I need to work out how to zoom in on a guest screen share without interrupting things, because I would love to be able to show that bigger. That's my thing. I'll work on that for next time.
Yeah, it's about 3 foot wide where I am, so I can't go any.
You can't. Yeah.
I can't go any further than that. So let's have a listen to that now. You can see it's quite chaotic the way it's moving. Let's open it up a little bit more so you can hear.
There we go.
So sometimes it stays really quite still, and other times it whizzes off. So we've got a stereo thing over here. Which one is this? Left and right. So let's add another LFO onto the pan. Click that. There we go.
I like what's going on with the sample. There's sort of a resonant, almost sine wave-like part of it that's creating a melody.
Yeah, it's true. Now the LFO, let's turn it up, see how fast it goes. So that's maximum rate, 50 hertz on the left-right hard pan.
So now we're getting audio rate modulation on the panning.
Yep.
And to get technical again, I'm not going to quiz people, but we're basically, if they might notice that there's a buzziness to the sound now that wasn't there before. It almost sounds like a lower frequency happening, which it is. There's a 50 hertz tone being created, and then actually sidebands above it, because we're doing amplitude modulation now. So you're doing audio rate amplitude modulation, and you're hearing like a new frequency being created out of what's in this sample.
Let's put another one on to the decay rate, because that sounded nice, opening and closing a little bit. Let's change the speed of that. So again, that's just a straight sequence. Let's copy over an actual sequence. Let's transpose it up.
Yeah, I was saying you're probably playing some low notes, which is why we sort of lost the fundamental tone there.
Right, that's turned into something I don't particularly like. It's going a bit sort of ravey there. So
it sounded better because that's actually what just happened brings up a good point, which I also like to talk to about with students making sounds, is the musical context of the synthesis and sound design is super important, because you just made all of those choices on how that sounded good, all that crazy modulation on that sample, playing a low note or a particular note, and you weren't changing the melody. But as soon as you transposed that sample to higher pitches and lower pitches, some of what you did kind of broke. So it's something to be aware of, like when you're designing a sound, you kind of want to make sure that it works in the different octaves or pitches that you want to play.
It's good to be honest with yourself as well. I mean,
Sure.
I knew straight away that sounded terrible,
right,
for me.
But if you go back to the demo version of just the one note, that actually was pretty good. You could keep that.
Yeah. So let's go back, which was, that's the early version there. So that's another thing that we've looked at with the sampler skimming.
I like that you're starting with, like, it's a sampler. It's not starting with a complex synthesizer. You're starting with these cool sounding, good sounding, pure tones from synths, throwing them in an easy to use instrument, and then kind of starting from a basic level and going in increasing complexity to show the possibilities. This is a really great demonstration you're giving us. So thanks.
Sure. Well, that's the whole reason I got into these sounds. I really fell in love with this little sample library. It's not 50 gigabytes, it's not like millions and millions of samples. There's literally 30 samples per synth. That's it. Not spread right across the keyboard. They're just very, very, it's a very compact library, but covers so many sonic possibilities.
Right.
So we've looked at the sampler there. So let's move on. What could we look at next? Let's look at one of the new features in Bitwig with this version 4. So I've got my Neutron here, which I've just got a basic note there. So this is the Behringer Neutron. It's just going to play this note. That's all it's doing.
All right. So in case anybody doesn't know, he's controlling an external hardware synth. The Behringer Neutron is being controlled by a MIDI.
In Bitwig, you have this thing which is called a hardware instrument, which is this. I can't remember what it's called in Ableton. You have a similar thing, don't you?
External instrument.
Where you can external instrument. So I've chosen the Neutron and given it a channel, and on here I can choose where it's coming in from my audio interface. So there.
Yeah, and if anyone hasn't seen the last time that Carl was here, he went over some of how he hooks up and sets up Bitwig to interface and control his external hardware. So if you're interested in that, definitely go back and check out part 1.
Okay, so we've just got a long basic note there. Now, if we click on this note, we've got a new thing that's turned up in Bitwig, which is this thing down here, which is, they're called the operators. It's given us this new box here on the side. Now, this gives us, we have a chance slider there. This thing here gets into note repeats. You can tell it how many. Well, we'll get to this next one in a minute, because you have to go through these ones first. So we've got our basic one note there. What I'm going to do here, where it says off here, I'm going to start sliding this up. If you look at the note now, if I go to 0, that's one long note. If I move up, it's splitting the note into different parts. Now it's playing the note it's triggering the note 4 parts.
Is that like a ratchet? I'm not sure. It's like, it's creating, it's subdividing that note into multiple notes.
There. So I've just split that note up into 24 segments. It's re-triggering it 24 times. Now you've got this slider in the middle. Now this is going to push. If I go left or if I go right, it's going to push the timing. Watch, I'm going to go right now, so watch what happens to the overall timing of these things.
It's applying a curve. It's like parabolic.
It is like a ball dropping on the floor,
Nice.
So turn that off. We've just got our one boring note, or we can add this in. Now we've got this thing on the side here. Let me turn that back on. This thing here. This tells the clip when play the note. So I've just told it to play that one note every 4 bars, at the start of every 4 bars. And you can change it. You can put this to however many you want. I could get it to play on those bars there. So we're already starting to see, just in one clip, we've got 2 different performance aspects going on. A basic on-off, which is happening on bar 1, bar 4 and bar 5.
It seems like Bitwig has incorporated some features that are more common in hardware sequencers, like hardware performance sequencers. You'll see stuff like this, like you'll look at like some of the, even the sequencer in the Behringer RD8, like where you can sort of build in change to your patterns, and or especially like Electron stuff has a lot of this kind of probability and control over when things happen and don't happen when you've got a loop.
Right, I'm going to turn that off. Now what we're going to do here now is, in fact, what I wanted to do won't work on the Neutron because it's not velocity sensitive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I'll do it on the Jupiter there, which is the Arturia Jupiter 8.
Oh, nice.
Which is
we like Arturia synths around here.
Yeah, they're really nice. So let's have a listen to that now on the Arturia.
Ooh.
Now,
I like what the noisy part of that sound is doing.
Yeah, it's gritty, isn't it? So let's zoom in a bit more on this. Let's get a bit more magnification on this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off that bouncy thing because I want to show you what else you can do with notes. So I'm going to copy a bunch of notes there. Right. Now, we've got chance. So when this is fully at the top, that's 100% chance that note will play. Okay.
Got it.
So let's put that down to below 0. Below 50%. Same with that one.
Got it.
So there's a certain chance those ones will play. Those ones will play all the time. Okay. So let's put those back up. You can see it's a little dice icon on the thing.
This is similar to what was added to Live 11 recently.
Right. Exactly. Now we've got the velocity here. This is really nice what you can do. So we're going to select the velocities there. But when I hold Alt down.
So now you've got...
this is a range of randomness that those will play between.
Sure.
Okay. So the upper line there is the maximum velocity it'll go to. The line down the bottom is the lower. And these are going to be, this is based on the sort of randomness as well. So when I play, it shows you visually what each of them is doing. Each pass it goes through, which is super nice.
Nice. I know that's a good visual element. That's something they didn't add to Live 11. You don't really see the change. You see the range and you know it's going to change between the high and the low, but it doesn't show you the how it rolls the dice every time it repeats. So that's a nice touch.
There's no, I don't think this patch has got any velocity on it, but you kind of get the idea of what that could do there.
Yeah.
And
by the way, we've just announced our giveaway winner this week. Pavel K2, congratulations. You have got a 3-month subscription to Splice. So yeah, nice to have one of our regulars again. Like last week, I think, was it Simple Sam last week who won? So yeah, nice that you guys are winning. Congratulations again, Pavel.
Congratulations. Right. Yeah, it's not a particularly good patch to show you that because there's just no velocity going on there. So
no worries. Okay, we're pretty much in the home stretch now. We got about 10 minutes.
Okay, so let's turn that off there. So let's see what else we can do. So what have we got playing here? So we've got our 808 playing there. That was the thing we started at first. We've got a bass thing going on here, which is a much lower down what is this based on here? These were, this was from, I can't remember what the synth was. It's a Roland, I think.
There it is. I've told Carl this before, but I'm really a fan of your bass lines.
Well, there's not much going on in that one. It's only
it's all right.
It's only a few notes.
It's a starting point.
Okay. So I don't know what I've assigned here, so let's have a look at this. I've got a few things on there. Now, this one here, another modulator.
Aha.
Now,
so this is like a step sequencer.
It's a little step sequencer, but you can assign it to whatever you want. So let's do, we're gonna modulate the steps, the select button with the step sequencer.
So are we switching between samples again?
Exactly, we're switching between samples again, but this is a different way of doing it. This is a more controlled way with a step sequencer, so you can tell it to jump right up to the very end sample by drawing a high note there, and tell it to jump down to one of the very low, first samples in the list like this. So basically, when it's high, it's choosing a sample from, sample number 30. When it's low, it's choosing like sample 0. So you can do things with a step sequence like that. That can also be attached to whatever you want. If you were doing filter, let's do filter, for example. Let's undo that and that. And we're going to attach it to the filter frequency there. We'll need to tell it to what type of filter. Let's see how that one works. Some resonance on.
You know what, Carl?
So
could you bring up the level of that track just a bit so we hear it a little more up front? Good. So we can hear the details. I like the growliness of it.
That's some filter control on the thing. I mean, we haven't even got into effects yet, have we? I've just been focusing really on the sampler. So let's look at some effects.
Nice.
Let me turn that one off there. So, like I was saying earlier, I really got into convolution reverbs. They've really done wonders for me. I was never a big reverb user in the past, but convolution's changed all that for me. The impulse responses from places all over the world, inside transit vans and nightclubs and bottles.
It's pretty amazing.
All sorts of crazy. It
or
really
even
is.
It doesn't even have. You can make convolution effects that aren't reverbs.
Sure.
You can just throw a sample into and you can get the tone of the gear, or you can just take some random noise you found and make some weird reverb-like effect with some noise. I mean, there's so much you can do with it.
So let's have a look at that now on just the basic 808 snare. So there we go, and I put this directly on the channel, so the snare is going to go directly through the reverb. Let me turn it up. So straight away, it's gone from that.
Right, which is good, because the 808 snare sounds amazing. But this is a totally different character now.
Yeah, this has got a metallic kind of feel to it. I don't even know what this convolution reverb is. Which one is it? Let's just go through some of these I've got in this list here.
That's great.
Yeah. So straight away we're getting into some really interesting territory.
Now we're hearing sort of more natural sounding.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm a big fan of using very short, sort of resonant, ambient reverbs on things. So you almost can't even tell that it's a reverb sometimes, because the decay of the reverb will be almost as quick as the drum itself. And it basically,
Like
it's
these.
it's like resonating. Yeah, like that one. It's like it's making the snare is resonating this room or this space, and it's adding subtle character and
So
width to
I
sounds.
change the mix, obviously it's probably gonna affect the timing of the snare. Sometimes it really shifts the timing off. But
Yeah, if a reverb has a big pre-delay on it, you're gonna hear it go later in milliseconds after. This one sounds like it's got a really fast or no pre-delay on it.
this is an impulse response from a coffee cup.
Well, if you think of how small
So
a coffee cup is, there's no delay inside of a coffee cup. The frequencies are bouncing back and forth so fast,
I think an 808 snare would just about fit inside a coffee cup.
basically.
That's a can. Coffee pot. So this is the snare inside a coffee pot. It's fantastic. It's got such a very, to me, a very electro feel to it. You know,
Sure.
it's taken it to. So let's leave
Which
that
is
one
kind
on
of
there.
it's funny that it sounds very electro, but it's also very realistic and organic because it's based on a real object.
Sure. Let's look at the kick now.
Oh yeah.
Now I've got this thing called beef. So
Beef?
let's turn this on. Beef.
Is that
it's just called
a
beef.
bull or a cow icon in the corner?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
So this has got a lot in it. There's an equalizer noise thing, a saturation crush. Right. This is on the 808 kick.
Right.
So we've gone from
Just that tight, punchy, clean to
yep.
a big boom underneath.
We've got different types of saturation.
That's a nice, smooth sounding saturator.
It's really nice. So we've got we can get into crushing. Now, again, let's open up the modulators.
Uh-oh.
Attach an LFO.
Are you going to modulate the effects?
I was just playing with the rate divide. So let's add a little bit. There we go. That's all right.
All right.
So our kick and our snare are grooving now. The hi-hats. What could we do to the hi-hats? Let's put some more of that beef on it. That was. In fact, no. I've got another one I want to show you. It's called Fin Retro.
Where are you finding these plugins? I'm completely unaware of these.
Well, because I've moved to Bitwig. Because I've moved to Apple Silicon with this M1 chip. I've been really searching for things that work universal binary and there's not a load that have moved over that way, but there's quite a few. And in my search, I've come across some really unusual plugins that I'd never used before. Bitwig doesn't use audio units either.
Right.
So again, I've had to kind of rethink it made me rethink a lot about the plugins that I'd been using for years and years and years. And again, just time to try something different. So I've been doing a deep dive into what plugins are around, and there's some really, really fantastic things around.
Sure.
This one's called Finisher Retro. So this is going to be on the hats. This is we might not notice it too much.
Is it a
on the hats.
modulation effect? What kind of thing is it supposed to be doing here?
You can't really go beyond this. But
I hear that.
yeah, you can hear that there. You can't get into the actual elements of it. You're just presented with these things and you turn them up and see what they do. Now, behind the scenes, there's phases and flanges and reverbs and the units.
Okay,
But you
it's
don't
like a
really
multi-effect processor with simple controls.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, so
It could be a lot of things.
there could be a lot of things.
Well, there's a phaser in this preset, which I like a lot. Phasers,
Yep.
flangers, chorusing on a
Things
hi-hat
called
is always
color.
a good idea.
Mode. I don't know what this. Chorus, drive.
Well, yeah,
there we go,
you're
something.
saturating it or driving it now, and that's another thing is it may not be that obvious because we always talk about putting saturators on bass to make them fatter but actually high frequency sounds, depending on your style of music, could also benefit from saturation and distortion, and it adds like
takes the edge
energy
off.
crunch, or it takes the edge off its clipping. I really love the sound of like 808 and 909 claps through distortion. They sound incredible.
Sure.
And they're really sort of becoming more like white noise at that point, but there's a certain character that they have that still comes through even when
that's
you're
what this
slamming
is.
it.
It's literally for getting a kind of retro.
Yeah.
I mean, even the machine, it looks like it's made in that old style plastic covering, you know, this black stuff. So there, that's given a bit of vibe to the hats.
This plugin would probably be fun to put on a whole group of sounds.
Sure.
Like on a bus.
Let's put it on the group.
You just were able to you just combined 3 tracks together.
Yeah, they're already in a group, the drums over here.
I got it.
So yeah. I've just dropped this onto the whole group. So when I push this up now, it's going to affect that whole drum group.
Right, it's a little bit, maybe in this particular instance, it's a little much on the kick drum, but ooh, I like that.
Yeah, we get into some really nice places really quickly with this plugin. Again, it's mysterious because you don't have a great deal of access to the things. I mean, there's talkback.
Okay.
You know, what is that doing? I don't know.
Feedback, maybe.
Color.
Simple Sam mentions, I might have some UJam plugin, but I never took it seriously with those UIs they have. So yeah, it's interesting how like the look of a plugin might dissuade you from trying it, but actually really you should follow your ears.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a really nice plugin. That
I would say, although I would prefer a simplified interface to an overcomplicated interface that makes me want to not even try. So it's something like this. It sounds like very high quality processing, but with easy controls that anybody could use. I like that.
Yeah, it's really straightforward, and it's just great to throw on groups and things, and you get some really nice outcomes out of it.
Very nice.
So there we go. There's the drums rocking away there. Got another kit down here, which is like some 505s for some extra hats, and so on, really.
I like that. I like with the sort of grungy vibe on the drums and this little trippy melody that just came in. This could be. I know you were just fooling around here just to show us how you do some of these things, but it's still good. You should finish it.
Sure, I might just do that. But that's a little look into it. That's basically, like I said, Bitwig is new to me, so I'm kind of finding my feet with it. I've really fallen in love with this sampler. And using these raw waveforms plus all the LFOs on top of it has just opened up a whole new world of modulation for me.
That's great.
So
well,
I'm having a lot of fun with it,
and it seems like it. And I'm enjoying what you're doing. Thank you for being here. We've passed 2:00. Time flies as usual when we're doing these things.
I was worried we wouldn't have enough. I was worried I didn't have enough things to talk about, but.
Not at all.
We're just nerding out, aren't we?
Exactly.
So, it's easy to fill the time.
Yeah. Thanks again. I hope that everybody here watching today in the chat has really enjoyed what you're doing. And
yeah,
I don't know if we'll ever do this again. Maybe we'll talk about it. But I'd love to have you back if you're interested too. And
sure.
Yeah, we're definitely.
I've enjoyed it, John. Yeah, let's do something again in the future. It's been
fantastic.
It's been fun.
Much appreciated. Okay, thanks very much. So. Thanks everybody for watching.
Tuning in, everybody.
Yeah, congratulations again to Pavel, who are winner of the 3-month Splice subscription, and don't forget about our sample challenge. Check that out. Join our Discord. Subscribe if you haven't already. Notifications, thumbs up, all that stuff I'm supposed to tell you to do. And thanks for being here. See you next week. Adios.
Adios.